Hello, welcome to my channel. My name's Melissa Newman. I'm a grief therapist of Rising Strong Holistic Healing. And today I bring forth an amazing video because I think it's quite empowering. I'm bringing forth some learnings and I guess what I have found, I've been working quite busily this past month and haven't been on social media a great deal, but I've had the privilege to work with many people, and it's super important, the work that I do in getting to communicate with people. But over this time, it really became very apparent to me how there seems to be a common denominator. There has been like a set of 6 limiting beliefs that I have seen that is running in most people's lives. So this is what this video is about today. I want to highlight this as briefly as I can to get, hopefully, anyone that's watching this, maybe you're a person feeling that you are stuck, unable to understand what is keeping you stuck, but I can pretty much guarantee you it will be what you have running unconsciously and consciously, but unconsciously, some limiting beliefs that you have learnt. And especially, I feel, because these are the people that I'm mostly working with, is Generation X at the moment. So without further ado, to get us started and underway, today I am going to refer to my notes so that I can try and stay as clear and articulate and bring my message across as gently, as lovingly as possible. So the affirmation that I would like to start with today, because I feel that it's quite relevant. So just taking a deep breath and going into this. To get us started and bring in a beautiful energy for this space. In the infinity of life and where I am now in this present moment, I am whole, perfect, and complete. Because we all are. We are whole and we are perfect as we are, and we are complete. Because life does support us. So I'll just add that in there. So that's a very important statement or affirmation that I tend to refer to every now and then, but today it just seemed more so because of the limiting beliefs, behaviours and patterns that I wish to talk about. So I have noticed through my work, it's just become an awareness, I guess, and which is important because as my role that I have, helping people to move from poverty consciousness into loving, empowering lives, limiting beliefs, behaviours and patterns is definitely what holds most of us back. So let's get started. So there's a handful of limiting beliefs that just keep popping up, and it's very prevalent with my age bracket. So Generation X is the years between mid-60s and 1970s or late 70s, I think. That's the Generation X. And through my work, these limiting beliefs are many people feeling that they're not good enough, that they're unworthy, so low self-esteem, low confidence that would come under, but unworthiness, feelings of rejection and insignificance, being insignificant or feeling insignificant in this world. Those two kind of go together, rejection and insignificance. Criticism. Criticism is judgment. Often we don't even realize how we are actually criticizing, whether that's ourselves or others. And there's reasons why we may do that externally, and sometimes we don't even realize that what we're actually either thinking about another person. I'm just thinking myself, okay, I'll elaborate on it now. I was going to kind of hold it back, but criticism, often when we criticize, is because we're, as individuals, trying to either make ourselves feel safe or feel better. But unfortunately, when that kind of never works, because it's coming through in a negative sense and not a positive sense. So it's not actually healthy to put that out there, even if it does make us feel better at the time. So let me give you an example. So you could look externally at another person that may seem to have more than you do, and you might find ways to kind of pull that person down. As an example, it could be like if we're watching videos on YouTube and we're looking at this person, someone that we probably like to hear what they have to say, but yet in the background we're kind of sitting there and going, so sort of picking out, well, I wouldn't say that and I wouldn't do that, and we sort of pick what they're saying to pieces. That is a form of criticism and judgment, because in that moment when we do that, we would see ourselves as, I would do it better, I would do it this way, and so in an unconscious way we feel that we're lifting ourselves up by saying or speaking in those terms, but in actual fact it doesn't. It has a reverse effect, and we can often do that without even realizing. So criticism is judgment, basically, when you understand how and what context that might be going out, or in what context you might be actually directing it to yourself. So not good enough, unworthiness, rejection and insignificance, criticism being judgment, and then over time, if we haven't been able to shift through those, a lot of self-loathing comes in unconsciously into our beings, where we start to really not really like ourselves. We don't like our life. We feel like I guess we're just living in a poverty consciousness, is how I see it, or how I've learned to see it, which is just basically living in lack, where we feel we just don't have enough. So even if I was to elaborate on not good enough, like the level that not good enough can extend is phenomenal. When you really dissect, if that's coming up for you, when you dissect not good enough, it could be work's not good enough, my income's not good enough, my partner's not good enough because they do this, my children aren't performing enough. Like this not enough narrative, oh my God, when you really start to really look at that context, it is huge in how much unconsciously we see the world around us as not enough. And that one thing alone, if you can hone that in and change that narrative, huge changes, I believe, could come to your life. So these that I've spoken about, limiting beliefs and behaviours, create all of our patterns in life. And I do want to tap into one important aspect that actually impacts that more for others. And that is, if we have been brought up into a world that hasn't been empowering, and we have experienced a lot of abuse and trauma as children, all the way through to adulthood, and then we continue to live that out because we haven't moved through these lessons of life, then what I've noticed, the people that have had traumatic lives have never been taught a strong foundation of emotional intelligence. And then let's look at this. If we don't have a strong foundation from childhood taught to us through our lives as children, as we grow, ready to leave the nest, then we are more likely to enter our world on our own, independently, without emotional intelligence. So we don't know how to handle many situations, because once we enter the world, well, that's a whole different place. And so if we haven't been taught how to deal and communicate with people through emotional intelligence on the scale that is, well, life is really difficult for us. Okay, and I will be honest, that's definitely been my situation. And I've had to learn and unlearn so much. But that's okay, because I'm now in a position, doesn't mean that it doesn't continue. I'm just now in a very empowering position, where I have been a person who just had a natural resilience to be able to work through adversity and try to find the truth. So it's a huge journey. And so today the message is, if you're unsure of what it is that's actually truly holding you back, I can guarantee you that the ones that are limiting beliefs I've just mentioned, not good enough, unworthiness, rejection, insignificance, judgment, and self-loathing, they are the common denominators. And when you start working through them one by one and truly understanding and dissecting how it has reflected in your life, then unfortunately you'll probably continue to live a life of poverty consciousness. So in saying that though, these limiting beliefs, and as much as they have been learned from our parents, there's no right or wrong with them. There's no right or wrong, because when you understand, it doesn't mean you're less of a person or anything like that. When you understand what the meaning of life is and why we as human beings come to this planet as soul, we come here to learn these specific lessons. We actually, whether you believe me or not, that's okay. As always, please discern what resonates with you. But when you can begin to understand that as a soul that has incarnated on this earth, there is a reason that you chose to be here. There's a reason why you chose to be a male or a female. There's a reason why you chose to experience the abuse. Strange as that sounds, you just hear me out on this. There is a reason why you had to learn through all the different experiences that you've had in your life, where maybe you don't feel you've never had enough income, so you've struggled financially. Maybe you felt unworthy and unlovable. So you came here to learn what self-love is, that you've come here to learn. If it's self-love, you've come here to learn that no matter what someone tells you who they think you are, you have to find within you who you are. That's the simplistic lesson from all of these. If you've come to understand how not to judge others, again, that comes back to self-love. A lot of these actually come back to self-love and knowing exactly who you are as a being, knowing exactly what your beliefs are, because these are beliefs, okay, that have been implanted and taught to you. They're not yours. They're not yours. You never signed up for those as in, oh yeah, I believe in that. As an innocent child, like, you're here to learn from your parents, the most, who are generally, or who are to be your most, the safest place for you to begin your journey in this planet. So you take that for truth, right? That's their truth. You believe that, and anyone would. That's why it's not right or wrong. And so none of these experiences that you have gone through are right or wrong, because it is the path of your soul journey. It is what you have agreed to come here to master within you, to be able to stand here and have someone criticize you, okay, and not take offense and not react and not become angry and not to take revenge. It is the power is to be able to stand in that space and go, okay, that's how you might feel and think, but I'm not going to be that way because I have a higher standard. I have higher integrity. Okay, your integrity might be to stand in your truth. Your integrity or your belief might be to, no matter what someone says to you, you will never retaliate and you will show what love is. You will be the reflection of love, because what's actually happening also is that other person, their experience for them to learn is what self-love is. And you're there to teach them if you're able to stand in that power and be the love. So that's simple understanding, I guess, with how all of this works. So if these are the common denominators, especially with our generation of Generation X, not so much, I think I won't go there because then I'll get off track. So this is what we've come here to learn. And so, yes, we're being really encouraged at the moment with the world shifting into a higher consciousness. And again, you may or may not believe that, and that's okay. But I definitely know that that is what's happening with the world, that we are shifting from a fear-based living into a more higher consciousness of love and equalness and shared equalness and humility and peace and so forth. So whilst these are your experiences to learn, and if these are the common ones, well, this is going to give you a good grounding start to find ways of how you might be able to change whatever it is that's not working for you currently. So, and then that will lead you to exactly your soul, your higher self will. If this is the starting point that you think, oh, okay, yeah, maybe I don't love myself that much. Well, how can I love myself more? You might start that way and start to find ways to be more loving to yourself. If it's along the lines of criticism, for example, where you feel you either judge yourself or judge others, or maybe make a stand. I'm not going to criticize anyone anymore, okay, because that's hurtful and harmful. Question, what do I stand for? Do I stand for criticism? Do I stand for judgment, or do I stand for love and truth and kindness and never to hurt or harm another? You got to dissect whatever your beliefs are through all of these experiences, dissecting. So it goes back to my beginning video of the year. What are your beliefs? Like, we need to review these all the time. Our beliefs will be forever changing, because life's always changing and we change and grow. So it's something that is never ending. And so you have to understand what your standards are. And when you can begin to understand, okay, this is the limiting belief. This is what my parents taught me. I'll give you an example. I pulled this out actually. So I'm sharing personally my own experiences around money. And so my parents had a very limited view or a poverty consciousness, and God love them. They did the very best they could, and they did what they were meant to do for me to allow me to grow. So with money beliefs alone, I had to dissect what I actually was taught, because without really understanding what my beliefs were around money, then how could I change so that I could have an abundance of prosperity and income? Like, this is where the power of this work is so deep. So here, I wrote a question. So what are all the beliefs my parents ever held about money? And I listed them. My parents, my mum particularly, she would go, oh, here's a little bit of pocket money. It's all I have because we don't have enough. So there's the not enough story, just in one aspect. Here's another one. When I was a child, and mind you, my parents had 6 children and they wouldn't have had a large income. I know they did the best they could, but they used to put things on lay-bys, and I always, with my mum, when she used to do this, she used to go to Myers and if we needed new clothes or what have you, everything always went on lay-by. But she always said, I have to put it on lay-by. We can't have it now. I'll pay it off because we don't have enough money. I'm like, this became my story. I didn't realize. I'll explain how it became my story in a minute. But here's some more. Make sure you save money for the unexpected expenses. So my dad taught me when I first entered the working world that you have to save money because there's going to be unexpected expenses, things that just knock you off your feet. So he was setting me up for, oh God, life's a bit of a disaster at times. So I always saved, and I save to this day. And guess what? I spend a little bit of money. I only ever spend a little bit of money, but I don't have to. That's the weird thing, because I have the abundance, but I've been programmed to spend a little bit. We don't spend much, and we save because we need to save for that rainy day. And my nan, she was a great reflection of not enough, because she used to always say when I used to visit her, and she's God love her, she's obviously crossed over now, but she is always with me to this day, and I feel like she's my biggest supporter. But she used to say, oh, life's hard. She used to always give that message, life's hard. There's never enough. And she kind of lived that way. And so here's another one. That was the other one. My parents, when they used to say, I only have a little bit to give. Now, when I used to donate, it's weird. I always donate, but I always didn't realize I had donated just enough. I didn't have to donate just enough. I had more to be able to donate, but I had this concept learnt that we just give a little bit. That'll be enough. It's crazy. I won't do them all. What is it? Oh, the other one. So in my childhood and growing up, there was a lot of judgment cast towards anyone that was rich from my parents. They were deemed as sinners, they were deemed as greedy, and all sorts. And so I had this mentality, not that it was a conscious one, but when I really started to dig, I could see how this was how I made my decisions around money. And it's so crazy. And this is the thing. These limiting beliefs of not enough and life is hard, we end up living thinking that life is hard. We make it hard for ourselves because that's what we've been taught. And so, with all these limiting beliefs, there is no right or wrong with them. And please know that our parents and our caregivers did the very best they could, just as we are doing the very best we can for our children. There is no right or wrong way. It's just been, if you take it another step back, for example, if you start to reflect on what kind of a life did our parents have, what were they taught by their parents? And if you have a look just briefly, they lived in depression. They lived in times of war. We're still in war, but there was never enough. There was this lack. There was poverty. so you can understand how this has been coming along the ancestry line, but it has to stop with us. And this is how we can create peace in the world, is that we put our hand up and say, stop. We do not allow this anymore. This does not continue. These limiting beliefs and the beliefs that we've probably created and passed down to our children, we need to be so conscious of the words that we express. Words are so powerful. And so if you are a person of the Generation X and you feel that some of these are really resonating with you, it's a great place for you to start to make change. And you can do it within a moment. You can create change in a moment. I learned that from Tony Robbins and actually Louise Hay. Learnt many skills to be able over the years through their teachings to be able to turn the narrative around. So if there was just 2 books that you went and bought or found, there would be 2 amazing role models that you could draw your learnings from to make great change, especially with this narrative. And so over time, we become so unconsciously stuck, and especially if we've had a childhood where we weren't taught the emotional intelligence, because then we don't have the foundation of how to deal and work and communicate with people. And so we keep inviting in this the same experiences. So you might have a little bit harder time to dig a little bit more to shift things, but it is doable. It is absolutely doable, because I have been that person, right? I've had the experiences of, I would say, not 100%, but a disempowering childhood. There were happy times, and I try to always reflect on the good times. But yes, I did have the experience of abuse when I was 13 from an external environment, not a family or friend or what have you. And then different experiences as I move through life. And without emotional intelligence, that is something you have to learn if you haven't learned it as a child. But those experiences, I've learned to forgive. And forgiveness is a hard one for many people, but we do have to forgive, because you have to understand where they came from so that you can understand why it occurred. And then you have to go, okay, they did the best they could. If you look at your life and reflect how you are as a parent, if you are a parent, I guarantee you will actually see that there are ways that you can do things better. We can always do things better. I know this for a fact because I've reflected so much in relation to I guess I don't always want to draw it back to my son and his passing, but that really opened a can of worms for me to really look deep within me. And yeah, I can look back and say, oh, I could have done better there. And I can see maybe where the not good enough story has even played out me as a parent to my children. And oh, wow, gosh, if I had have known what I know now, that would never have happened, because now I know my truth. And when you know your truth and what your standards are, you won't let that happen again. And so, and even when I say that, my other son who's here, he has expressed to me, he said he has no regrets for his childhood. And here we have two different people. I have 2 sons that probably one had one experience and the other that had another experience. And his, most lovingly confirmed that he's like, wow. He goes, no, I have no regret for how you brought me up. He goes, because one thing that stood out to him is that he always saw me constantly improving. He always saw me as a person that was always willing to change what either was not working or was not helpful. And that's the thing, as parents, we're role models. And so we can't look at these experiences and beat ourselves up, because we have always done the best we could and can with the given knowledge that we have, and own that. And then just forgive. When you can go through that forgiveness allows the release. It frees our parents, if it's our parents that taught us. It frees all of the people from our experiences, and it frees us. So the most important thing is forgiveness is more about freeing yourself so you can come into the most loving space. And so you can change in a moment. You just must decide that enough is enough, and know that there's been no right, there's been no wrong, and it's only been learning. And if you can learn through those experiences to become a better person, a better version of you, and raise your standards, you cannot ask for more than that. And our experiences are just that. Even loss, even the loss of our loved ones, it's there for a reason. And loss is normal. And that's the thing, we don't see it as normal, not us Westerners anyway. And that's why I'm on my quest to help people understand that it is normal, and we need to talk about it more and not shun it. And we need to talk about it with our children more, so they understand how to deal with it. So, like, anyway, so staying back on track. Change, it can happen in a moment, but it can only happen with you. Only you can change your broken reality. And it takes immense work to go within and face your fears, accept and approve of who you are and what you stand for and who you choose to be. The power to heal is within you. It's not outside of you. However, when I say that, sometimes we do need a leg up. Sometimes we do need someone that has walked that path. So we do at times need that helping hand just to go, okay, let's put all the cards on the table, and they help us, especially if they've walked the path and they've succeeded or are succeeding. Doesn't mean they've reached an end point, because we don't as souls reach an end point. The life journey is ever constant. It's ever growing. It's ever expanding. And so it just means that person that can be your beacon of light to light your path, they're there to help you, to guide you, because they've been there, they've done it, and they know how to move forward. And so doesn't necessarily mean it's me, but it will be someone. There's someone out there that has walked the path, who knows what they're talking about. And I guess for me, delivering this message, okay, this message and my work has come about because what connects me to community to share my message is grief and loss. Grief and loss is my connection point. So if anyone has gone through grief and loss and trauma, that's my life. That's been my experience in so many ways. And I have risen through that adversity, and I've got tools in my little kit, and I know what it is that when I hear a narrative, it's go, oh, I know what that means. Okay, it means this. And I start to ask you questions so that you can reflect in and find your own answers, because it's up to you to find the answers. It's not up to me. It's not about me telling you what to do. So just like this video, I'm highlighting to you, and some of it will resonate and some it may not. And that's okay, because when you are ready, the teacher will show up. And so the helping hand is loving guidance from someone who has walked the path and who is succeeding along that path to turn fear into love, who can light your way forward out of poverty consciousness into an empowering high consciousness of self. So you can change all of this in a moment. That might sound untrue, but why would that be untrue? Because when you actually think about it, if we can create a problem in a moment, we can also, don't we, create solutions in a moment? So you can make the change. But energetically, it takes a bit of work to work through this stuff. But where do you start? Well, one, you change your focus. You begin. Here's 4 steps. You begin to hold yourself at a higher standard. I've said this before. We must see ourselves as higher beings, not lesser beings. We are great, magnificent, wonderful beings. Set your standards high and find out what your beliefs are. Create new empowering beliefs. So as I've just written here, adopt new empowering beliefs that will enable you to break through the limiting beliefs. Be willing to accept and approve of this change that you want. And to know only I can change and determine my future destiny. One powerful statement that I have said over and over again to change my help move me out of my limiting beliefs was, no longer was I going to betray myself. That meant for me that my life and who I am was no longer negotiable with anybody, with anyone. That was something I was never going to negotiate anymore. I was never going to allow other people's opinions and beliefs to control my life. So a common affirmation I would say all the time was, no one, what was it actually? I do not allow anyone, and I will not negotiate with anyone who I am. And you can only do that when you understand who you are, because you'll have understood what your beliefs are and what you stand for. And with that, be willing to change the old limiting beliefs and patterns of your past. Another affirmation that you can use is, I am willing to change all the old limiting beliefs, behaviours and patterns of my past. I forgive all others. I forgive myself. I approve and accept myself. I am safe. I'll say it again in case you want to write it down. I am willing to change all the old limiting beliefs, behaviours and patterns of my past. I forgive others. I forgive myself. And I approve and accept myself as I am now. I am safe. So all these experiences are what you came here to learn and unlearn, so you could discover the true power within you, which is your most beautiful, unique, magnificent self. You hold the key to a better life, a life that is perfect, whole, and complete. It's up to you. Namaste. Thank you for listening.